Hey there, everybody, and welcome to a random Tuesday with Carpo. I'm sitting here in my living room, and I just had a few thoughts I wanted to share. Being along the lines of taking a position in the middle is. Okay, start over here. Okay. Being balanced is an extreme position. It just popped into my head a few minutes ago, and I thought, how ludicrous of a statement is that? Like, how ridiculous is that just came to my mind as just a normal thought that wasn't intended to be ironic? And, you have the center, you have the extremes on both sides. You would think that taking a far reach one way or the other would lend you to be the quote extremist. And then I started thinking about many of the people that I've listened to speak about certain issues and topics with a very balanced perspective. There are many out there. I'm going to choose, for the sake of this video, to keep it brief and to not get anybody riled up about specific people. But there are plenty of folks out there who have a very balanced view on politics, religion, theoretical physics, whatever it might be that's their branch. Somebody who tries to remain pretty neutral and may even bounce around from idea to idea. A lot of the times we call that wishy-washy or a flip-flopper, which I won't even get into as well, but let's just say that in politics, being a flip-flopper is considered a bad thing. I remember one politician changing his mind on marijuana, and when confronted by the news trying to get one over on him, like, well, you said it was bad, and why are you changing your mind now? And he said simply, well, back then I didn't have the information. Now that I have the proper information to make a proper assessment, I've changed my mind on the subject. Wow, that was so hard to do. I mean, we don't see this. We don't see this happen with anyone in any type of power position. There's no apologies. There's no, I may be wrong. It's, this is the way it is, and fuck all the rest of you, and you pay attention to what I say because I have authority. Now, this isn't something that people even realize they're doing a lot of the time. But in politics, for example, that's a great example because those who have been in politics too long tend to believe that their opinion carries more weight than the average citizen, which forgetting that they were put in position by the citizens that just hired them to do a job. It's kind of like the way that banks and bankers, some bankers have been asked, oh, how important do you think your job is? And they say, oh, it's the most important job out there. We manage people's money. It's like, no, people are forced to use banks because of the circumstance, but they could just as easily use cash. They don't need your bank. There's nothing you specifically do. In fact, you're making, just siphoning off of their funds. There's the makers and there's the takers. And the makers are the people who go out and perform actual work and service to create new things. The takers are the ones who manipulate and profit off of their work. These are the ones that we often look up to the most. The managers, right? The Elons of the world. No offense. He's growing on me a bit, but, it always has bothered me when people claim to be experts in every field just because they have a lot of money. And this is something we see a lot. So back to the beginning, the discussion about being an extremist in the middle. I want to explain this a little better. If you have an extreme view on something on one side or the other, then you're going to get a lot of support from that side because other extremists will welcome you with open arms, whatever the position may be. Whether it's anti-religious or religious, left or right politics, it doesn't matter. You will get support if you take an extreme position on any topic out there, anything, and roll with it and really stand by how you feel. Now, here's the thing. Even though there will be far more people who disagree with you than you realize, you'll be stuck in your bubble. If all you watch, for example, if you're left-leaning and all you watch is left media, you'll have no idea what the right's even talking about, except for what the left tells you the right's talking about. If you watch right-wing media, same thing. You have no idea what liberals and Democrats are really talking about, except for what you've heard on your right-wing news, which is selective, bias, which allows them to pick out the most extreme stories. So all you're going to hear about is the most extreme things. But here's the thing. If you're so extreme that people think you're just nuts, they often will just ignore you completely. At least the circles that matter, the real discussions. They'll be like, oh, this guy's just an extremist. They're not even worth the time. When you're in the middle, as a rational voice, people will give you more crap than you can imagine. And to explain this, people consider those who are far left or right a lost cause. But somebody who's right in the middle, who people from both sides respect, they will get so angry and hostile at these people if they don't agree with every single principle. An example would be if you're a person who's, say, a libertarian, and you have a lot of Democrats who respect you and a lot of Republicans who respect you, and you have a certain view on abortion that doesn't agree with one side, but everything else you agree with, then you will be chastised and hated and ridiculed because you have to follow every single rule in the rule book. This is the same thing that happens with religion. If one person stands up in church, and this is changing, and there are many more open churches, but in the past, in centuries past, if you stood up in church and said, hey, I was just reading this little paragraph here, and what if it was meant to be this way? What if it was a metaphor? You could be excommunicated from the church for questioning what somebody else told you was the truth. Now, this is what people mean when they compare the way that we act today with kind of a religious attitude towards our belief systems. And I've heard this over the last decade or so, especially over the last 5 years. I've heard some very, thinkers that I respect and admire say, I'm not a religious person. However, I've discovered that if you don't have religion in your society, then people will find a religious attitude towards anything else, whether it be authoritarianism. If you don't believe in God, then you'll believe in this guy's authority. Or you might take a certain position politically or philosophically, and they can be very extreme and very individual to the person. But the problem arises here when everybody has their own different version of truth and reality. And this is when I started to see that religion, whether it was forced on the people, whether they took it willingly, has a long, raw history of belief. But it allowed at least people in some communities to come together, gather on certain days, and celebrate something that they all believed was greater than themselves. That in itself is something that we're really missing right now. We're at the point where we're chastising God, we're chastising our country, our own country. There are people claiming that America is this horrendous country. And look, I grew up as, a liberal hippie kid that was totally anti-war and anti-corruption. And at some points, somebody might think anti-American, but no, never. I love my country because I see my country as the people that live in it. I don't have anything against conservatives just because they're conservative. I don't have anything against Christians just because they're Christian. But the minute you show your true colors and you show me your values, then I'll be able to make an assessment. But why is it so hard to just be neutral? Not even neutral, but have some nuance in our conversation. Some real nuance to our discussions. There are so few media channels where people can get real information anymore, if there ever were. But there was a period around in the last 10 years where people really started flocking to alternative media. And now it's become, instead of alternative media, somebody who takes the time to do the research, it's become just some commentator who takes an article from CNN or Fox and then they give their own spin on it. And then people just believe that. The Alex Joneses of the world. Maybe a little bit of truth comes out here and there. And we need all these different sources. We can't throw everything out. We have to listen to even people we don't agree with to decide whether or not what they're saying is true and to assess whether or not what we've heard about them is true. And this is why I'm willing to listen to all angles from all people. There was a time when I wouldn't, and I did live in an echo chamber for a while. And politics did frustrate me, and religion did frustrate me. Not like I was angry shaking my fist, but rather just like, why can't we make the world better? If we can only make these few things happen, we can make the world such a better place. And now I believe that I was wrong. I don't believe that eliminating religion would improve the world, and I don't believe if everybody was left-wing it would solve the problems, or right-wing. I think that we need both. Stupid old saying that you probably heard a million times. It takes both wings for a bird to fly. And it really does. It's understood why there are several different parties and groups and ideas, and we give people chances to see if what they have as an idea works? Should we, kind of hold back and be more tight as Americans and protect ourselves? Should we go out and help the world? These are questions that are difficult to answer. People want to take an extreme position, either complete support of the military to do whatever it wants to do, or a complete hatred and it's like the abolish the police thing, right? You have some rational voices in the middle. The real defund the police movement, not to bring back memories here, but the real debate the conversation that was supposed to be taking place was, for example, when you call 911 on your own brother or your mother or your son because they're having a psychotic breakdown and you think they might be a danger to themselves, instead of calling the cops who are designed to, respond to crimes, to take some of the money from that and put it into other things that could fund mental health counseling or sending in specialists first. And this could prevent people from getting shot who otherwise weren't violent or dangerous. Maybe they were dangerous at the moment, but could have walked through it. And look, I know this personally. I've dealt with people in a psychotic episode, and I know how dangerous and scary it can be, but they overcome it. It's not who they are. And so people took that to mean either A, we need to give the police more money and let them do whatever they want, or B, completely defund the police. Like abolish the police. This absurd, ridiculous notion that people had. A very small segment, the extremists, had this view. It seems that the extremists have that view in many things. There's always somebody who wants to push it to the limits and think they know what's best for others. I'm not going to say we have to ignore those people because we can't. But what we do have to do is acknowledge them and move on and let the rational voices speak. Start listening to the balanced people, the folks who actually have something to say. I would like to think that one day I could be that person, that I could be informed enough to talk on many of these topics specifically. But alas, I'm just kind of a wanderer of the mind, a jack of all trades. My mind thinks of many different things, and I am not a pundit. I don't do politics. I'm not a religious expert or a theologist here. I just share what I know. And it's more of a question of when did it become extreme to be in the middle? Let me know your thoughts. Thanks for watching. I have a couple of podcasts that are uploaded right now. It's been a couple months. I'm getting back into my groove, ready for a new year, and I'm going to get a new computer so I can do some editing again and make my videos a little more interesting and do some interviews, but that's for another time. For now, I bid you farewell. Have yourselves a wonderful Tuesday afternoon, as the Moody Blues would sing. Be well. Peace.